Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk podcast in association with Viper Goalkeeping. At the time of speaking, we're slap bang in the middle of the Euros, but we are going to switch off international football for now and turn our attention back to the best football club in the world, Sunderland, as we bring you another Sunderland special. Today's guest played approximately, 35 games for Sunderland AFC, scoring 3 goals, and is currently part of Joey Barton, Bristol Rovers squad. Welcome to the show. Jack Baldwin, how are you doing? Are you all right, mate?
I'm all good, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good as always, mate. Football's on the TV. Fans are getting back in the stadium. That's what we've wanted for a while, isn't it?
That's what it's all about, isn't it? Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Before we delve into Sunderland, I think it's fair to say it's been a tough season for everyone involved at Bristol Rovers, really. There's been a managerial merry-go-round at Sunderland before, so I'm used to it, but you're already under your third manager at the Gas. You had a few weeks off, but are you ready to put the disappointment behind you, get the side back into the third tier first time of asking?
Yeah, like you say, it was a very tough year. A lot of, obviously, on top of the obvious, being involved in the middle of a pandemic. We had the change of managers that really kind of unsettled camp a lot, and it was a tough year all round, really, off the pitch, on the pitch. But like you say, we've had a few weeks off now to kind of reflect and put that behind us and kind of refresh and recharge the batteries, ready to go for a season in League Two. But hopefully one that we could turn into a winning season. Obviously something that we weren't used to last season. We lost way too many games last year. It wasn't good enough. Full stop. It was an embarrassing season all round. So it's important for us to kind of try and bounce back, and that is the goal. No, make no bones about it. That is what our aim is for this coming season.
He's not the best of friends with Sunderland fans, admittedly, but I spoke with your assistant, obviously Clint Hill, a few weeks back, who obviously loves him, and the overview of Joey Barton I've heard has always been very, very positive. You might upset a few Sunderland fans here, but how much have you enjoyed playing under him in the first few months?
Yeah, I mean, I like you say, it might upset a few Sunderland fans, but he's actually he's really good to work with, and I've really enjoyed. Obviously, the coaching staff come in at a very difficult time when we found ourselves in a really tough place, and through no want for trying, we did absolutely everything we could. The staff, especially, they was leaving no stone unturned, and you probably have a thought in your mind of what you're kind of going to expect when you hear that Joey Barton's coming to the football club. But I mean, for me personally, he was a breath of fresh air. Very intellectual, very articulate, football through and through. Very good man manager, very good communicator to the group, and it was exactly what we needed at the time. Unfortunately, we fell short at the end of the season, but what I'm hoping for, and what I'm sure the whole staff and the whole club are hoping for, is that we can have a good summer under this coaching staff. They can implement what they want to implement, and we can really try and hit the ground running from day one, really.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. As I said in the intro, obviously we're here to discuss Sunderland. I'm sure a lot of people are here for that. Well, hopefully they are anyway, all 10 of them. So we'll go back to the summer of July 2018, if my calculations are correct.
Believe so.
I think so. I think you were about the 5th signing at the time. We signed like a big batch of defenders. I'm sure it was Alim Ozturk, Flano, Reece James, Glenn Louvens, and then yourself. But how did the move come about originally?
Well, like you say, it was July. I think it was literally a week before the season started, because I missed out on the first game. So obviously I was at Peterborough at the time before signing at Sunderland. Kind of had a meeting with the manager there and was told, like, not kind of in my plans. Feel free to look about, kind of thing. And before I knew it, my agent was in touch and said, basically, Sunderland was on the table. Would you be interested? And I kind of thought, so do you even have to ask me that? Like the biggest football club in the league, and one of the biggest clubs in the country. So for me, it was a massive personal milestone to sign for a club like Sunderland. Just gutted it didn't work out the way I'd hoped and seen it in my mind, really.
Did it help that you played for, I know obviously you didn't play each other often, but you played in a club nearby with Hartlepool, who've got a great set of fans as well, although it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Did it help being at Hartlepool, being able to see the size of Sunderland from sort of a closer distance than maybe some other people had?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I started my career at Hartlepool, so I'd lived in the northeast for 2.5 years or whatever it was. So I was familiar with Durham, with the Metro Centre, with obviously all the main attractions, if you want to call it that, in the northeast.
Meadowland,
it was kind of like, yeah, it was kind of like I was going back to something familiar. Like it was almost like a home away from home, because I'd lived at home before that until I was 18, right up until the day I signed for Hartlepool. So it was the first time I moved away from my family, and kind of got living by myself. So I'd always think the northeast is a home away from home, because it's where I spent a lot of time there and really enjoy it. And the people up there are amazing. Like you say, Hartlepool was a fantastic starting point for me. The club was brilliant. The fan base there is amazing, and I mean, I can wish them all the best in the playoff final this weekend, because I hope they get back to where they belong.
Yeah,
they're a great club.
I agree with you on that. I like Hartlepool, and I think that they're generally a very welcoming place, unless you're a monkey, of course. And I think you're a spy, and it's very, very different, of course. But you know, they're just trying to protect the country. Was there any other clubs interested at the time, or was it like as soon as Sunderland came in that you didn't kind of look elsewhere?
Yeah, no, I think there was a couple of other League One clubs on the table, but like you say, as soon as you hear Sunderland doing even the slightest bit of interest, you put everything else on the back burner, because that's the one you want to hope comes through. So thankfully it did, and I had a chance to play for such a great football club.
I think we'll come on to the relationship you had with Jack Ross more later, but first time you meet Jack Ross, I think he's obviously a very dapper young gentleman, very good with his cardigans and his shirts. But aside from his dress sense, what were your first impressions of Jack Ross?
Yeah, obviously at the time he'd come down from a winning team in Scotland. They just got the promotion, I believe, to the Scottish Premiership, and it was kind of the idea that the club was kind of growing for the future. So they've chosen a young manager who'd had a bit of success up in Scotland, knows what it takes to win games of football. So that's kind of the picture I had, was like they're getting this young manager from Scotland. He's going to build his own team and kind of carry him forward for the next few years, and try and get the club back to where it belongs. So that was kind of my initial picture of the manager at the time.
Was it Jack Ross you got to meet first, or was it obviously Donald and Meth then, the duo as it came to be known?
Yeah, no, I met Jack Ross first, and kind of met him at the training ground and had a good meeting and a good chat with him, and he outlined his ideas and his plans for me going forward. And I didn't really meet the duo, as you call them, until a bit later on, I believe.
So, sorry that you had to at some point, mate. Going back to the time that you arrived, though, to be fair, everything felt really positive. Like the new chairman had come in. Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I remember being a fan at the time. You had this chairman in Ellis Short that was quite reclusive, didn't really speak, and we were falling through leagues to this chairman who was like being really open, really honest, or so we thought at the time. It was a total contrast. How did the mood around the club feel when you were like coming in, like those first few days before the season started? Did it feel quite positive?
Yeah, it was very, like you say, it was with Jack Ross coming down. It was kind of like that building block to go ahead over the next few years, and it was kind of a real buzz about the place, and believing that we could get the job done at the first time of asking, really. And then obviously going into the first game with Gooch scoring the last minute winner was such an amazing feeling. For I'd only been in the building a week, I think it was 3 or 4 training sessions, and yeah, I still remember that raw when the goal went in. It was absolutely amazing, and it was like you say, it was a real positivity growing around the place, and a real belief that we could create something special that season.
When it comes to the goal that Gucci scored, I mean, I remember the roar, the atmosphere was great, and it felt like, oh, this is it, crest for wave. Here we are 4 years later. But at the time, it did feel very, very good, very, very positive. With the fact that you'd been at Hartlepool beforehand, you kind of had more of an idea than most what the atmosphere might be like. When that goal went in, you seen how loud and proud and mental the club could be. Did it kind of still take you by surprise, even though you had kind of an idea of what maybe the club would be like?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when I was at Hartlepool, I remember sitting in my little flat that I had on the Hartlepool Marina watching the North East Derby on multiple occasions, and you could just get the sense of the area more than anything. You could just sense of how big it was and how much football means to everybody in the North East. So I kind of had an idea of what to expect fan base wise, but like that roar when that goal went in, I think I was sitting on the bench and like it was shivers down the spine and goose pimples all over my arms and that. So because for me it was like, it was the not the pinnacle, but it's the highest I've ever been as a footballer, like in terms of club stature and expectation and fan base. So it was a bit surreal at the time, to be honest, and I did take a while to settle in. I felt like a bit of a, just from me personally, I felt like a bit of an outsider, like I didn't belong there, because everything was so amazing and the facilities were out of this world, something I'm not used to. The training ground, obviously the stadium, the fan base, and I kind of felt like, well, do I actually belong here? But obviously I must have done something right to get there initially, but yeah, it was a bit surreal at the time.
I mean, when you came, obviously you didn't play that game because you'd only been a few days beforehand, but you did come in the next game against Luton.
Yeah.
And you basically managed to secure your place for the majority of the rest of that season. In the first part of the season, I think you really hit top form. I actually think the opposite. I think you settled really, really well. And I think there was like Jack and Bauer. I remember specifically tweeting the words Jack and Bauer at you at some point. But you were someone that when you first came in, the fans really took to. Why do you think, even though what you've just said, why do you think the start of your Sunderland career started as brightly as it did?
I don't know, really. Maybe there was a subconscious element that I probably had to try and impress to kind of show that I deserve to be there, maybe. Yeah, I don't really know. And I always understand that the position I'm in, I'm such a privileged position, and I understand that I'm really lucky. But at the same time, I've earned the right to be there. So I always try and have that connection with the fans of any club that I've been at. That kind of, I'm not like, I didn't grow up through an academy. I kind of earned my way into the professional game. So I've been on the other side where I had a normal job before I signed professional, like when I was still at college, just a little part-time job. But I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I understand that it is hard work to get to where we are today as professionals. But I try to show that in my performance as much as I can. Sometimes a bit too hard. I try a bit too hard, and to my detriment, and it's let me down many occasions. But I always try to let the fans know that I care about the club that I'm at, and I want to do my best for the football club, regardless of who it is.
Talking about like settling in and stuff like that, I think it would be, obviously it might be a little while after by the time this is released, but it would be remiss of me not to mention, unfortunately, the passing of Louise Wanless, who I think everyone across the club, fans, other clubs, the whole of basically the UK's game of football has commented on what a wonderful person she was. And you were someone who came into the club, and like you said, you maybe struggled a bit mentally first when you came in because you weren't sure if you were in the rightful place. How important is someone like Louise Wanless to you settling in? And did you get much of a chance to sort of speak with her over stuff like that?
Yeah, huge. Obviously, could just say like thoughts and condolences to everybody, Louise's family, the football club, and like you say, she was such a character that the whole football world has felt her loss. And she was massive for the football club. Like you say, for me coming in, she was such a character. Like, never failed to put a smile on my face. Always checking that I was okay. She's kind of like my mum at the football club. She was always checking that everything was okay, that I was where I needed to be. If I ever had to do any media duties, that they wasn't keeping me too long, and that they wasn't asking anything too controversial, and all that sort of stuff. So like she was a focal point, and she really made me feel like I belonged at the football club.
Seems it was no surprise that like pretty much any player that ever played for Sunderland had condolences, and obviously massive condolences to her family and everyone that affects, and probably the entirety of Sunderland for that. You talked before about the social media element of the Jack and Bauer stuff and all that kind of thing, and it was at the time, like you say, the biggest club that you'd play for, with a huge fan base, a big social media presence. How long does it take before like kind of your social media begins to blow up and you start noticing, hang on, like my phone's consistently going with fans having opinions on things, and how difficult is that to take on board when it goes from a couple of fans to like thousands?
Yeah, I mean, obviously social media has changed everything that we know like today in regards to sport, news, whatever it may be, politics. And obviously starting at Hartlepool as a relatively small club in the Football League, I kind of grew a bit when I went to Peterborough. There's a slightly bigger fan base, and then obviously up to Sunderland, it was a different world. So it was kind of almost immediate when you post that obligatory "great to be here," which at the time, but when I wrote mine, it was great to be here. Can't wait to get started, because I understood what a great opportunity it was for me, and it's kind of all the responses to those kind of messages and people wishing you good luck and all that I kind of realised straight away how couldn't put your phone down for 2 seconds without it lighting up somebody liking something or retweeting something or commenting good luck. So yeah, it was pretty immediate in that sense, which is when I probably decided to turn off all the notifications and all the social medias, because I understood that obviously it's great when it's great, but at the same time, if you're having a bad run or you're not everybody's cup of tea, you're going to get all that stuff through immediately to your house, your living room, wherever you may be at the time, and you got to take the good with the bad if you're on that sort of social media platforms. But I try and do as much as I can to stay away from all the bad.
I wish I could. Unfortunately, my job relies on it, but I understand exactly where you're coming from, mate, 100%. Yeah. Another player who, like early doors, was taken till the day he left, was taken in by fans, was Chris Maguire. I know some people think he's inconsistent. I'll put it out there to say I absolutely love him. He's a bit of a wind-up merchant, and I think we've seen numerous times when he's like that. But what's he like off the pitch, Chris Maguire? Yeah,
Chris is a great guy. He's like you say, he's a character. He's probably everything you expect off the pitch as well. A bit of a joker, likes to have a laugh and a joke, and like you say, a bit of a wind-up merchant. I remember playing against him in Peterborough v Ox when he was at Oxford, and I think I tripped him and give away a penalty, and the goalkeeper, you might have seen the video, the goalkeeper was pointing to the side that he thought he was going to put it, and he obviously scored, and then he went and got in the goal and took the piss out. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
No, it's fine. You can swear as much as you want on this, mate.
And took the piss out of the goalkeeper by just diving on the floor. So I sort of didn't like him at the time, but then obviously getting to know him and playing alongside him and having that on your team is always good. And he's probably, like you say, he's everything you expect off the pitch, like what you get on the pitch.
With Chris Maguire being on the pitch, obviously you see certain flashpoints. There was the Bradford game when he's laughing in that lad's face. There's the Portsmouth game when he's, for some reason, going for the biggest guy on the pitch in Christian Burgess. But on the pitch, there'll be things that we don't recognise, like little things he's saying to players, little things he's getting into people. Like, what's he like on the pitch? Is he as much as a shit house as the things that we've seen? Is he like always at plays and trying to get the psychological advantage?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's just him. That's like ingrained in his body. Like he just loves to wind people up. Whether he wants to shake their hand after the game or not, I don't know. Or whether he's sincere when he does it. But yeah, like obviously to have that on your team is any advantage you can get on an opposition is helpful. So if he's getting in someone's head that he's going to make a mistake or do something rash to give us a goal or a head start in the game, then so be it. And feel free to crack on, Chris.
Yeah, I'll take it any day of the week. One of your when I was thinking before, like Jack Baldwin, Sunderland, what's the things I think of? And there's two moments. One you might disagree. One you'll probably agree with me on here. But Bradford away, 10 men, max power, went through a series of enjoying getting sent off every couple of weeks for some reason. You had a great game at the back and you managed to grab the winner. What are your memories of that day? Because at that time, things felt really, really good at Sunderland.
Yeah, like you say, it was obviously the game itself, the way it panned out. Obviously, Max C red, and I remember when I scored that goal, as I wheeled off round where the fans were, my wife was in the front with my children and my mum and dad all along the front row, and literally as soon as I turned around, that's all I could see. And like the roar from everybody else, and I could just I was just focused on my family, literally right there. It was like I get lost for words a lot because I can't really put how I feel into words. But yeah. it was an amazing feeling, and like once it had all settled, well, I say settled down. Once the euphoria of it all had settled down, and kind of had to take a deep breath as I was going back to our half to restart the game. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a left foot swivel as well.
Yeah, it was.
If I remember rightly.
we
unheard of.
We turned. Yeah.
I turned like the Titanic then as well.
Your words, not mine. That's a point really where I haven't really thought about that so much, but I think when you talk about players that have joined Sunderland, you chat about the Stadium of Light, how big the fan base is, training facilities, all the stuff that maybe like as fans we kind of know about. But some of my favourite memories as Sunderland fans is going down in thousands to an away game, and Bradford, I think, had thousands that day. I want to say it was about at least 3,000. Is that when you kind of realise even more the magnitude of Sunderland when you see the numbers that we travel with, even in the third tier, which we totally haven't been used to until recently?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I don't know what the figures are for the average attendance when fans were allowed in for away fans, but Sunderland would have smashed that probably like fivefold every week at least. Like you say, the Bradford game, the one that sticks out as well is I think it was Blackpool away, New Year's Day. It was like 8,000. Took like half the stadium. Yeah, the away following, just selling out away ends like every week, and it does make a difference because it turns it from an away fixture to kind of not a home, like almost like a neutral ground, and you've got the voice of the fans as well. Then, which normally wherever the voice of the fans was, it was like a mini home game really. Obviously, without the 20s and the 30,000, it was like a mini home game. So yeah, I think it's a good point that you probably realise the magnitude of the club by the away travel. Definitely.
Yeah, we're all a bit mad, if I'm honest with you, with our away games. I'm missing them. I'm missing them. Tearing up here as you're discussing them. You remember an away game that 16, 18 months ago?
Days. Yeah, remember those days.
I said I had two memories of you. My second one is probably one you're not going to expect, and I think I know the answer to this because I've seen the video. However, reverse fixture. The reverse fixture against Bradford, obviously 46,000 fans or 48,000 fans. I think it was a record attendance.
Boxing Day, yeah.
Boxing Day, great day, not the best performance, but in the last 10 minutes, John McLaughlin sort of spills it. You're sort of like the nearest to that at that point when he spills it. So the question I want to ask is, did that go over the line in your opinion?
No,
The right
No
answer.
chance. No chance.
Only about 4 yards over.
They never do. Yeah, they never do. That was Sunday. Like you say, the record attendance. I think it was the third highest in the UK that day as well. I think only United and Spurs. I remember looking at the tape, wherever it popped up, Sky Sports News probably. The attendances for the day, and Sunderland sitting third. That was. Yeah, I think performance wasn't great, but we sneaked up 1-0, didn't we?
Yeah, we took the
3
win.
points.
Yeah, very much did.
Yeah.
I think obviously the goal scorer that day, which you brought me on delightfully to, was Aiden McGeady. Obviously, at the time of speaking, we don't know if he's signed a new contract yet. I'm hoping he does personally, but he was becoming a real focal point at that point. He'd been out injured till about October. By December, you were sort of seeing the quality he had at that level, and he probably has continued to be, apart from when Parkinson sort of dropped him, a real focal point for Sunderland. Lewis Morgan, I think, spoke on open goal and said that he would often come in and be open and honest and chat about expectations if he felt we weren't hitting them, and said, "Oh, you can't draw it home to Accrington and Burton," or whatever it was. And yet, there's kind of two opinions on that. Like, should we have high standards and so on and so forth? Or is it not fair enough that he's speaking, whatever it may be? But the question that I would give to you would be, in your opinion, what was Aiden McGeady like within the dressing room, and how much of a positive was he?
Geeds is brilliant to have. I personally love the man. Like,
Snap.
He's such the thing with Geeds is he will say it how it is, and not care about the backlash or whatever may come from it. If something's not right, he'll rightly as well out it wherever it needs to be outed. And there's probably there's people in this world who can react to that, and there's people who think that he was probably having a go or picking on, bullying people, whatever you may want to call it. But if that, and as players and professionals, and our duty to go and try and win football matches every week, if something's not right, then it should be pointed out, and that's something that I've got to be better at and grow into as I get older. That I've never kind of been one to come in and like say like this is shit, boys, for and single people out, because no matter what football club you go to, they'll say like you need to have a bit of nastiness, and if someone's not doing something, pull them, like kind of get into them a little bit and understand that it's all from a professional point of view, that it's not I'm singling you out because I don't like you, it's I'm singling you out because you're not pulling your weight, and as a group of lads we need to get 3 points today. So yeah, like if something wasn't right, Giggs would say, and the level of expectation and the level he's played at and the talent that he's got as a player, drawing to Accrington, or obviously no disrespect to those football clubs because they've earned the right to be where they are for all reasons. His expectation is that he doesn't want to be sat in League One playing against League One football clubs. He knows he's a better player than that. We all know he's a better player than that, and he's a fantastic talent, and he shouldn't be in League One. But yeah, like obviously, whenever I see like highlights or whatever, and Giggs is featuring, it's a joy to watch. And like I said at the start, I love the man. He's a great guy.
How hard was he to train against in defending? Because obviously you would have been up against him, and he's got feet that are just ridiculous, even at 36 or whatever he is now.
It was tough. Yeah, so obviously, like the guy's played in the Champions League. Like, do you know what I mean? And for me, little old Jack Baldwin, who's come through Hartlepool and Peterborough, like 1v1 drills, or even like in a possession, he's squaring me up and he's doing his little fuzz feet where he's jinking to one side and skipping at the left, and I'm tying myself in knots trying to work out how I've got to deal with it. Obviously, it can only help me as improve on that kind of aspect of the game. But yeah, he's a talented guy. There's no, obviously we all know that, make no bones about it. And like I said, he definitely doesn't need to be in League One for any longer than he needs to be.
When it comes to Aiden McGeady, when you're talking about, like you say, Sunderland don't want to be in League One. The fans don't want to be in League One. So to me, that attitude that he has is completely fine by me. But would it be fair to say that it's McGeady's doing that because he doesn't just want to not be in League One himself? He doesn't want Sunderland to be in League One, because I think he has an affection for us, from what I can see. He's been here a long time now.
Definitely, yeah. No, I mean, he's a good guy, and he cares, and he does all the, like, he's a top professional as well. Does all the right things recovery wise, and if there's a recovery session in the pool or whatever, that he'll be in there, he'll be getting it done. So he cares about doing the right things for the football club, to put himself in the best possible position to help the football club. And obviously he does divide opinion, and there's probably people's opinions that I don't know, he doesn't want to be at Sunderland, just there to pick up a paycheck or whatever. But like you say, I definitely think he's got that affectionate side for Sunderland, and he does care. He does care about the club, definitely.
Fingers crossed he signs a contract by the time this is out, which,
hopefully.
Yeah. I think when I look back on the season that we're discussing, outside of the things we've already mentioned, if I think, why did Sunderland fail to get promoted, there's two words that come up, and that's Josh Maja. And I was looking back through the fixtures when I was sort of setting the questions for this, and I thought you can sort of see when the contract situation comes in and starts being a topic of discussion, we start faltering a little bit. How much did the saga of Josh Maja's signing the contract or not signing the contract, how much did that affect the dressing room and the team?
It's hard when a situation like that arises in a football club. It's hard to say like that one event triggers a downfall of events or whatever it may be, because it's something that you don't talk about as a group, so to speak. Like, so we wouldn't all be sitting at lunch on one table saying, "Oh, do you think Maja's going to sign his new contract?" Or do you think he's away or whatever? It's something that you probably think to yourself and think of the implications of him not signing or signing, and whatever the case, whatever it may turn out to be, it will be what it will be. But yeah, like, I don't think it has that overall effect on the whole group at one stage. It's kind of the individuals probably thinking to themselves, like, is he going to sign? Does he want to be here? This, that, and the other. But yeah, like you say, Maja leaving was a big loss for us. He was a great striker. He scored some great goals, and like his footwork in and around the box was right up there with the best. And he could create a yard out of nowhere and get a shot away within an instant. So yeah, Maja was a big miss, but these things happen in football, and obviously as a team and as a club, you've got to adapt and find a new way.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but we will come on to it. But before we do, as I said before, you were probably the only one that's been on Netflix longer than I have been. I'll have to check the timings on that, to be fair. But it's a bit of a weird situation. I mean, I remember doing the podcast that is on the show, and it's weird having cameras on you, because you don't know if you're being negative, positive. You don't know what's going to go out. You don't think, oh, what's this going to be like in a 6 months' time when it's out? And it does play tricks on your mind almost, as someone who was just doing it in one bit as part of a blooming podcast, for crying out loud. As a player, it must be much different. You obviously had the cameras in your home, met your family, stuff like that, and things like that. So you had that part of it. But how weird was it having the cameras on you all the time around the ground? Does it create an extra pressure, or is it easy to ignore?
I think initially, especially I'm only talking personally here, but it was a bit strange at first, because obviously you normally get the odd match day camera filming you walking into the stadium or whatever, but initially to have them about the training ground and maybe the calf or where we're eating our lunch out on the pitch as you're coming in the car park or whatever, it was a bit surreal, but it's a bit like anything really. You kind of get used to it being there, and you kind of know that you're going to be driving into training and you're going to expect a guy there with a camera wanting to ask you a question about something or other, or asking if they come and film you after training for 10 minutes that turns into an hour or whatever it may be. So yeah, you kind of get used to it eventually, I think. So it doesn't really. I think that season that I was there, I think they banned them from the dressing room, if I'm right.
Yeah, that's correct.
On a match day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you had that, not safe environment, but you had that, on a match day, you had that pure focus of just getting the job done without the cameras being there. But yeah, it didn't play too much. Like I say, you kind of get used to it eventually.
On the flip side, I think Luke O'Nine's made to be a TV personality when he eventually retires. You are someone who joined at the same time as Luke O'Nine. I think it's quite obvious from the outside looking in how great of a bloke he is. He seems really chilled, nice, gets the community side right. Obviously comes from a really great background and a good family upbringing, but just how nice of a person is Luke O'Nine?
Yeah, he's like you say, he's a nice guy. Like that is Luke. The definition of what you expect everything a top professional to be. He'll be doing almost he does too much, I'd say.
Yeah.
If that's possible. He'll be in the gym, he'll be in the swimming pool doing lengths till like 5 o'clock or whatever it may be. But that is here, that's all he knows, and that's how he's got to where he is today. So good on him. And yeah, like you say, in front of a camera, he knows exactly what to say, interacting with the community. He knows how to react to fans and be that personality around fans. But one thing I will say is that on the pitch, he has got that little bit of wind up merchant and like not nasty side, but
he's come
playing
from Wickham.
against him, you'd get really frustrated playing against him. But yeah, no, like I say, yeah, all round great guy.
You can sort of tell he's came from Wickham. I think people miss that with Luke O'Nine sometimes. He's got a not a shithouse side, but he knows the dark arts. I think would be maybe the right term.
He knows how to play the game on a match day. He knows the little like theatrical, when to put a bit of a dive on, or when to like fumble picking up a ball for a free kick or throw in, or all those kind of playing the game, playing the referee. And that's the thing as well. I think his reputation helps him out a lot, because he's got that nice guy reputation. You kind of don't expect that side of the game, so gets like the referees on the side and things like that.
You always need something like that in your team, whether people agree with it or not. Another part of that season, which we've discussed, was Josh Madger. I suppose the opposite side of that is Will Grigg. Now, it didn't work out. Obviously, he's coming back, but it's not going to work out. Everyone's seen what happened on Netflix, how the move came to be. But there's been a lot of people who have criticised throughout his time his demeanour at Sunderland, said that he seems like he wants to be somewhere else. There's been a few quotes he's come out with that kind of indicate he has been, but you can only give your opinion on what you've seen of him. And obviously, it's a little while ago. But what was Will Grigg like in the dressing room? Did he appear to not want to be there? Was he quite a jovial character? What was he like?
No, he never appeared that he didn't want to be there. He's always part of. There was always pranks being played, and you'd guaranteed that Griggy was a part of that in some shape or form. And you definitely didn't get the impression that he didn't want to be there at all. He was, like I say, always joining in with the jokes and the pranks and keeping himself right. Obviously having banter with the lads when banter arises, or I hate using the word banter, but joking around with the lads.
Get where you're coming from. It's an easy word to use, though, isn't it? Everyone understands it, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. When you say banter, everyone understands. But yeah, no, I never got the impression that he didn't want to be there at all. No.
Do you think it would be fair to say that because it was such a disastrous move, people are just maybe looking for more reasons than are actually there?
Yeah, I think obviously signing as a striker for Sunderland, I think a massive feat. Looking at the strikers that the club have had over the previous history. So I think that the weight of expectation to hit the ground running straight away is massive. And I think if you don't understand that and you haven't got the character to be able to deal with that, then you're not going to not go in your shell, but you won't get the rub of the green. I think you make your own luck in the game, and it's hard because when the fans are in the stadium, you get the sense of the atmosphere and how it affects the players. And I think obviously strikers are confidence players at the end of the day. If they're confident, they're going to be firing on all cylinders. And maybe Briggy just didn't feel that confidence from the outside coming in. And like I say, not hitting the ground running straight away is an uphill battle.
I think he missed an open goal on his. Obviously, you scored that game, Blackpool. He missed an open goal as well in his first home game, I think, which kind of unfortunately probably set the tone for his time here. But he's gone to MK Dons and scored goals, so there's something in it somewhere. But it's always an interesting thought because I know a lot of people aim that at him, and obviously somebody who's been in the dressing room. It's certainly worth asking. On to more positive moments of Sunderland. I know the result wasn't exactly what we wanted, but the Checkatrade Trophy final was a great day. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the weekend. Most of us did.
Unbelievable.
Just superb. But my bad memory of getting up for the game was when I seen the videos of you coming off the train at King's Cross and hearing the sort of roar from the fans.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that moment, that day, that weekend?
Kind of felt like, I don't know, as you say, when we got off the train at King's Cross, there was God knows how many Sunderland fans there. But you had everyone else who wasn't connected with football just going about their daily lives. And you hear this loud roar and clapping and cheering and chanting, and you kind of see everyone who's not connected with it looking around and what's going on here? Like England national team just got off the train or something. But yeah, I remember the security trying to get us through all the fans and the little side gate where down the side where they keep the rubbish to get out to the coach, and then obviously all the lads having pictures and stuff and the flags, and yeah, the build up for the game was great. The night before in the hotel, me and Flano shared a room, I think, and it was a calm, peaceful evening, and we was kind of just sat on the balcony looking out at, I think, the river or wherever we were staying, and just it had a really, really great feel about it. Obviously, like you say, the day itself was fantastic. The result, not so much, which at the end of the day is probably the biggest thing in football. Probably is the biggest thing in football. So it was a disappointing day in that sense, but a personal achievement at playing at Wembley in front of nearly 90,000 people was something I'd never forget.
On the flip side of that, I know obviously the penalties came shortly afterwards, and we know what happened there with Cats and so on and so forth. But when McGeady scored that goal, for a moment, it felt like the Checkatrade Trophy was at the World Cup final, just for that split 10 seconds, and everyone mental.
Yeah.
You're on the pitch viewing that. How does that feel when you see that end go bananas, basically?
Yeah, it was like an out of body experience. You see him getting into the box and then and then I think he just slots it past the keeper. I can't remember how it came about, but like I said, that the eruption of noise, and it could have easily been the World Cup final. I don't think the noise at any of those games would have been any different to the noise that was produced at that moment. And it was it was a relief for me, because if I remember rightly, the goal that we conceded I think the ball over the top, I could have dealt better with, because the striker got in off my shoulder, and I remember being fuming with myself because it could have been so easily prevented. So, like I say, it was a massive relief for me to know that we was back in the game, and that moment hadn't cost us at that time. So, yeah, to see that eruption at the end of the stadium, and the sigh of relief as well, it was a bit of a mad moment for me.
After the game, I think a few people commented, and I love Lee Cattermole. Like, I openly do. For me, he's a total legend. But you kind of felt like because of that, when he stepped up, he might be the one that might miss it. He looked devastated afterwards, but Lee Cattermole's achieved so much in the game at a higher level. Realistically, he probably never thought he'd even play that competition. How was he in the dressing room afterwards? Because of his experience and stuff, was he able to shoulder it off, or was he still like thinking about other people trying to be the captain, or did he have a bit of a moment to himself?
Yeah, I think you could sense and see the disappointment, because, like you say, with Gede, Cat genuinely cares about the football club as well. So that sense of disappointment, you kind of, and being the figure he is, and like you say, the experience he's got in the game, and the games he's played in, and the level he's played at, I think kind of everybody understood that you calm around him or whatever. But in football, like, we're our own biggest critics, so he would have been having his own thought processes, and meant like anyone could have gone up to him, put his arm around him, and it probably wouldn't have made too much difference to the way he was thinking and feeling at the time. So yeah, obviously devastating that it turned out the way it did, but yeah, I think he was definitely disappointed about
that. I'd certainly take more good memories from that game, and it's certainly more memories of Lee Cattermole than the actual result. I must be honest with you, and that was a cracking weekend, cracking day.
Yeah, I'm sure many other people do as well. Yeah,
from what they remember, yes. If they remember much of it, because I know I certainly don't. But probably the big moment in your Sunderland career, probably from a disappointing perspective for you, was that Coventry game that came up. I actually wasn't at the game. Yep. I was in Sweden watching it from Sweden randomly. It was a poor day all round. And it just, I was another story for another day, but I was in a burger shop in Sweden watching the match. I think you and Tom Flanagan probably got a lot of stick after that game. Like, I remember it like really well, and I know they did. And I know you both had a poor game that day. That's fair enough. But it felt like, as it was, you and Flano shouldered a lot of the blame, and you were both, in fact, dropped the game afterwards for Jimmy Dunn and Alan Ozturk. We win 2-0. We have a good defensive display. I think Jimmy Dunn stays in for Peterborough. Jimmy Dunn then comes out. Flano goes back in. But you never get back into the team. But before I go into like the rest of the season and what that meant, what do you think on that day went wrong for you and for the team?
You have these days in football where you get the sense that anything that could go wrong will go wrong, and literally the start of that game felt exactly like that. I think we conceded early on. One of the goals deflected off my shin and went past on. I think it was just a catalogue of errors throughout the game. Like you say, me and Flano was dropped. I think there were about 5 maybe off the top of my head. I think he made like 5 changes for the next game. But yeah, it's like can I catch a break? Like, obviously it's not for the want of trying, not trying, because you never go out to play a football match thinking, I'm gonna make sure we're 3-0 down before half time today, and like I want to concede 3 goals in the opening 30 minutes or whatever it was, something ridiculous. Like that's never the case. It's just like I said, everything that could go wrong went wrong that day. I think we pulled it back before half time, if I remember rightly. We got back into the game, scored Yeah. And yeah, it was just, I honestly don't know. It was one of those days where a few of us had a bad game and it was collectively all at the same time, rather than one of us having a bad game one week, the 10 other players pulling us out of the shit, and then someone else's turn to have a bad game the week after and the other 10 pulling out of the shit that week. It was, most of the team had a shitter, and it ultimately cost us in a game that was just goals galore. And like you say, there was a lot of changes made for the following game, and that was the end of my season and career at Sunderland, really.
With that game in particular, I know obviously it probably did end your career at Sunderland, which I'm sure we'll come on to as the reasons to why, but 2-3 year on, whatever it may be, because I've lost track with COVID, did that game learn you more than probably like a lot of wins as a professional?
Yeah, they do, because obviously the phrase, you learn from your mistakes and this, that, and the other, but you look at games like that and you see how like tiny errors all over the pitch, like leading into each other. So like one error could be avoided, but then the game would progress and then something else would happen that could be avoided. And then you watch the game back, and we've got the facilities these days. The game gets uploaded to these websites afterwards, and you can look at your clips and assess your performance. And they're never easy watches, especially when the game goes so badly like it did. But you can see how certain moments affect the game, and you think what you would do differently if you were to kind of find yourself in that position again, and how that would affect the game. So it's something that I've needed to work on throughout my career, before Sunderland and even till this day now. I'm hoping I'm getting better at that, learning to nip it in the bud when kind of you're noticing things go wrong, get back to the basics and just get back on a level playing field. And nothing like you as an experienced player, you've got to understand when those games arise. Some days everything's going to be going for you. You're going to be winning your headers. You're going to be clipping diags to the opposite winger and putting balls in behind for the strikers. And some days you're going to be shanking your clearances into the stand. And it's those games where you've got to realise that it may not be your day that day, and you've just got to get back to basics and really just do the basics well.
Said before about how Fano and yourself got dropped. You realistically, apart from one game the next season, never got back in. What was said after that game between yourself and Jack Ross, where you just totally fell out of favour because you didn't even get on the bench for the rest of the season? You went from being someone who'd started the season well, was liked by fans, went through a rocky patch, had a bad game, to suddenly basically never been involved with anyone again. So I'm guessing there was a conversation between yourself and Jack Ross after that.
Yeah, I think there was, but not to an extent that you'd imagine. I mean, I think he pulled me in to tell me that I was dropped for the next game, definitely from, if I can remember rightly. But which obviously I accepted. I couldn't complain. And if I have a bad game and I get dropped for the next game, I completely understand. And I'm not one to confront the manager and say, "Well, I one bad game, blah blah blah." I'll accept it and get back on training pitch that day, the next day, whenever it may be, and just go about my business the way I have been doing for the last however many weeks. So the conversation extent was minimal, but before the following game. But did you say next game was Peterborough?
It was Doncaster, then Peterborough. Yeah,
Doncaster. Yeah, because I remember I travelled to the Peterborough game and sat in the stand. I travelled to, like, in this from the point of me getting dropped to the end of the season, I think I travelled to Peterborough, Southend, and Bristol, I think, funny enough, and sat in the stand on all three occasions, which are three long trips from Sunderland.
Yeah.
and I don't like to have regrets, but looking back, I wish I'd gone and spoke to him again after a few games. Kind of take your punishment on the chin and then go and speak to him and reassess the situation. But like I mentioned before, I'm not that confrontational person, like to go and ask the question and be like, why am I not playing? I've played 30 odd games in a promotion chasing team. I'm not that person. I'll just get out onto the training pitch and just keep trying to train well, and do all the right things, be a good pro, support the lads, travel to the games, not sulking, wanting to win the game as much as anyone who's on the pitch. And that's my way of dealing with it. But looking back, I think going to speak to him again definitely may have helped me. But like I say, you can't change the past, and it is what it is.
Looking back, pardon me, looking back, at what point did you start realising that maybe like your number was up almost instantly after you'd been playing week in, week out, oddly enough?
I think sitting in the stand at Peterborough away, a couple of weeks afterwards, I mean, obviously it probably felt worse because I'd played at Peterborough before. So I was going back to somewhere where I would have liked to play, and maybe I'm just thinking into it a bit too much, but being taken, I understand managers' thoughts behind taking extra players in case of sickness or whatever circumstances may arise. But to be taken there, or taken to free at the other end of the country almost, was kind of the writings on the wall here. Like, I'm not really gonna. I think that's me done.
So when it got to the summer, I mean, obviously,
yep,
it was hindsight. We didn't know at the time, but Jack Ross came out after he'd been sacked and said that he considered leaving in that summer, or he spoke to his dad or something like that. And I think that was the summer where the fans, the management, with the takeovers, the failed takeovers, the Methven, the Donald stuff, started realising that maybe something wasn't right. Could you, as a player, even though you were maybe not directly involved for the first team at the end of the season, could you start to feel in that summer that things weren't quite right at Sunderland?
Not for me personally. I never kind of look into all the stuff that happens off the pitch and in the board, and like that, all those kind of shenanigans you want to call them. I just kind of took that summer to really take a mental break because of the way the season ended. Obviously went to Wembley, sat in the stand for the playoff final, and it was a real downer really. So I was looking to kind of pick myself back up over the summer and come back into pre-season and try and kind of get back into the team. But obviously Jack Ross, the manager at the time, he told me that my playing time would be limited, and that I was free to kind of look for a club on loan if I wanted to go and play some football, which at the end of the day is what we want to do. We want to play football games, and I took the decision to go and try and find some football somewhere else because I didn't want to just sit and not play a whole season through sitting in the stand. Well, at the time, that's how it felt. It would be like I'd be frozen out for the whole season and I wouldn't get a chance. Obviously, the managerial changes might have changed things, but you're never to know what's going to happen in the course of the season. So yeah, that's how that panned out.
Before, obviously, you did go on loan. You played against Burnley, had a really good game. We played really well that day, really randomly out of nowhere. Will Grigg scored and everything went rosy for a moment. Did you feel after that performance you might have got a chance, or did you kind of know that you were just being put in there for game time and that you wouldn't get back in, or was there a chance where you could have got back in maybe?
Yeah, no, I thought that, like you say, we put in a great shift that day, and it wasn't like a Burnley reserve team or 23 team. It was they had a strong team out that day and pretty close to full strength, and to go there and win 3-1 was was brilliant, and we, like you say, we played really well. Some individual performances were really strong, and I like to think that I played quite well that day. And off the back of that, thought I would have done enough to kind of get in the frame again and have a chance to stick around and fight for some game time again. But like I said, that it didn't turn out that way, and it wasn't until just before the window shut, I think, that actually something come up on to go out on loan.
To go to Salford at that point, I think, wasn't it?
So yeah, Salford City, yeah.
So did you get a chance to meet Beckham and Neville and Barton Scholes?
I didn't know. I think they, not all of them. I think Gary Neville, I think, is like the forefront of the operation. I think he's at most of the games, and he's the one who kind of runs the show with that in that respect. But yeah, unfortunately, I never got to meet him personally. I know a few of the lads have met him from the Wembley visit, the Wembley wins, and promotion to the league and things like that. So I know they're heavily involved, and they do go to the games. Obviously, Bex has got other commitments at the minute.
One or two.
So he's not involved. But yeah, no, I personally never met him. No. But good to be a part of the club's history, really, and they're growing, trying to go places. So yeah.
And obviously, unbeknown to you, you were part of a Checkatrade, or a Pizza Cup, as it's now called, trophy, without actually playing in the final because of COVID. But yeah, you were still part of it. I think you played in the semi-final, of course. I remember watching it before the world ended. Yeah, very odd. Final question. When you look back on your time at Sunderland, what is the overriding emotion that you feel when you look back over it?
Good question. A bit gutting, really, that it ended the way it did, and the disappointment that season all kind of rolled into one. But I wouldn't class it as a disappointment, because for me personally, it was a big year, because prior to joining Sunderland, I'd only played, I think it's like late 20s, maybe 30 games a season, because I'd suffered a couple of big injuries. I had a knee injury that kept me out for nearly 13 months or whatever it was. So for me to join the club of the stature that Sunderland is, and play as many games as I did in the circumstances, it was quite, on reflection, it was a good year for me personally, despite the lack of success of the club. If I'm speaking selfishly, for me to go and play that many games at a club of that size was really really something that I'm proud of to this day. But at the same time, the disappointment of the falling out of the team, and the not being able to get promoted, and not being able to lift the Checkatrade trophy at Wembley, or it's a kind of a mixed bag, really. It's a long-winded answer to your question.
No, perfect, mate. I always like long-winded ones that gets the subscribers in. On that note, thanks very much.
Does you a job, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly, mate. Do subscribe. Thank you very much. But Jack, that was a great crack. Thanks so much for coming on and giving me like an hour of your time during your summer holidays. I really appreciate it, and I'm pleased you enjoyed your time at Sunderland, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I was a bit nervous going onto it, but you made it smooth, mate. So thank you.
All right, mate. No problem at all.